start, and we have a question that relates to this, to talk a little bit about some of the events that transpired over the weekend. If you guys watched yesterday, we talked a little bit about this, that on Thursday, the Washington Post printed an article about a new study. It was a very, in my opinion, irresponsible headline that said, significant link between mass murder and autism, and then, brain injury, and went on to detail a study that a lot of people are saying is really arbitrary and doesn't take hard facts into consideration. But so we went on the tails of that to Friday, this horrible shooting. Horrible event.
Really, really horrible. First of all, I haven't read the article that the Washington Post referred to. I'm very interested in reading that. But yeah, the Friday event was very close to me. As you know, my daughter Nikki goes to UC Santa Barbara, and it was, fortunately, she was here in LA with me when this happened. But how the way that I found out about it, actually, so before it hit the news, was that Nikki was with me, and she was showing me texts and pictures that she was receiving from her roommates and her friends on campus, or at Isla Vista, where the kids were hiding under the tables at the Habit Burger, which is right there, and they were, taking selfies, because at that point they thought this is fun or something. They didn't know what's coming yet. And so I followed it very, very closely the entire weekend, because it directly impacted our lives and my daughter's life. And it was very sad, very, very sad. And of course, right away I looked on, the first news that I received in the morning, I guess, on Saturday. On Friday, it was just mainly through the Nikki's friends. Yeah. It wasn't really out there yet, I don't think. But Saturday early morning, I get notices from BBC News and so on, CNN and so on. And it was interesting, because what you got on BBC was always much more than what you get on US channels, which is kind of interesting. But they named the shooter, and they mentioned his video way before any of the US sources were doing that. So then I went on and looked at YouTube and his the variety of different videos that he had there, and started to learn things about the fact that he had written a 140-page manifesto and had sent it to so many people, including his parents, and that his mother had been so concerned and had actually called the police and asked them to go check on him. And she was on her way driving to Santa Barbara when she heard on the news all this stuff happening. And I mean, how horrifying for that mother. I feel so bad for his parents. I really do. Of course, I can't even fathom how the other parents, the parents of the children who were killed, were feeling. I mean, it's the most devastating thing ever. It's so unnecessary, Absolutely. And then, of course, as this whole thing went on, to learn that you can tell, obviously, watching the tapes, that he has some mental disability or issues. There's no question he's not really understanding things properly, and he's very upset. But whether or not I would very much hesitate in terms of jumping to a conclusion and saying he had Asperger's or he had anything to do with the autism spectrum. I don't know. I would have to. I can't tell from that video alone. I can see that he has some social problems, no question. He's not really understanding social norms appropriately. But then, there are lots and lots of children out there, or adolescents and teenagers, who become stalkers or, become extremely upset and so on and so forth, that we don't call them Asperger's right away, and we don't label them, and we don't say, oh, that's what justifies this or whatever it is. I mean, this is a very complicated case. And but I did hear after the fact that he had been receiving a lot of mental health care services.
That seems to be one of the things that's reported in every single venue, that he had been getting some sort of psychiatric care from a very early age. But the reports are conflicting about whether there was an actual diagnosis, and even reports that are very close to the family. One who said, apparently the lawyer for the family said that there had been a diagnosis, but then a close family friend said that's not accurate, that the family felt that he might be on the spectrum, but that there had never been a formal diagnosis. So, a lot of it is speculation at this point. And yet people were jumping to conclusions.
Well, but it's also very interesting to me, and these are things that we may or may not find out for sure, but it would be interesting to find out more about his roommates or his the young men who were living with him who lost their lives as well.
Yeah. A most recent report seems to confirm, and again, but they're reporting this in the LA Times, that he was living in a assisted living situation that was designed specifically for people who need more support, which leads us all to believe that the roommates that he killed were also people who needed more support, which is particularly poignant to me.
Well, yes, extremely. And why have we not learned more about those individuals? There's a lot of coverage on, which is, I have to tell you, like, I can't even. Mr. Garcia, I think, is the name of the father who was giving a speech about his son and so on, and that just tore my heart out.
The father who's saying the gun control, enough is enough.
Right.
But he was that son was the one. He was the last one who was killed. That was killed, and he was not one of the roommates living.
Exactly.
With him.
So Mr. Garcia's son had just been at the improv show, which my daughter goes to on Friday nights, and had just gone to the deli that my daughter goes to get a sandwich or something. He actually walked into the deli shot, and there's footage of that, right, which is devastating. And he was the last. And then, of course, there were the two girls who, it's extremely sad. One of my friend's daughters also goes to UCSB, and one of the girls who was shot was her roommate. And so those two girls were in front of the sorority, and thank the Lord that nobody opened the sorority doors, because the shooter was actually trying to get in.
Wow.
So, but then we heard very, very little. In fact, I think two of the three gentlemen or boys who were stabbed to death. One of them, we don't even know his name. So we got very, very little information about those three. And, my sympathy is with those families, and what a devastating and horrible experience. And I wish that we were privy to all the facts here, because on the one hand, we who are in the spectrum of autism are very defensive about these things, I think, because we don't want autism or Asperger's or ASD to be associated with only negative things. That isn't right. That is not the case. On the other hand, yes, part of the disability, not just Asperger's, but many other disabilities, if you are not able to rationally understand social behavior, then you might, it helps us understand where the shooter was coming from, in terms of he was so angry at the world, and it really all had to do with how girls did not like him. And, being able to understand that, and to be able to continue to survive and like yourself, and to overcome, not hate yourself and not feel such a reject, and so on and so forth. All of that is help that should have been given to him sometime in his lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's sad as well.
It's a reasonable expectation. And I know that we're focusing a lot, and they're calling him the virgin murderer, and we're focusing on the whole aspect of the girls because he talked about that in the manifesto and on the video. But we're also getting reports that in the recent months that someone dangled him over a balcony, and that they were making fun of him, dangling him by his feet over a balcony, threatening to drop him. We have to remember that as a community, we all share in this loss,
right,
in so many different ways,
right,
so many different ways. But in moving forward, because we have to, right? We have to pick up the pieces, and we have a responsibility to learn from this. It's like, where do we start? But somebody has written in a question that says, what do I say to the mom who now thinks that my kid is a potential mass murderer? And she said, so mad.
Oh, gosh, there's so many sides to this. I guess all we can do is just continue to educate people. That's all you can do. I know it's very offensive. We as parents become very defensive about this type of thing because we are offended when someone, thinks that the entire spectrum of autism are dangerous, or people who are dangerous. It's just such ridiculousness. But at the same time, it's an opportunity that you have to educate all these other parents and to tell them it has nothing really to do with the spectrum of autism. It really just has to do with any person. You don't need a label for this. Anyone who feels so begrudged from society, perhaps, we talk about mass shooters or murderers in the past who have been bullied. And you can think of it in the same way, really, because we see those people, we see them as victims in some ways, because we say, oh, they were bullied, and then they lashed out. Okay, well, even if someone has a diagnosis of Asperger's, the truth of the matter is they probably have gone through quite a bit of, humiliation through their lives. And even if they haven't, they have a very difficult time understanding that they haven't. They have a very hard time understanding that things are fine and that they're not being mocked and that not everybody is making fun of them or laughing at them. And from their perspective, they are being bullied. And so really, it's very difficult. You have to see all sides of it. Having said that, does anything ever justify so many young, beautiful children being taken from us? No, of course not. Of course not. And this is a tragedy. It's a huge tragedy.
Well, and one of the things that a lot of people are saying about that Washington Post article with the incendiary title is that if you read further down, even though they quote different numbers and they look back at a certain number of cases in the last 10 years of where there have been mass murderers, one of the things that they say further on is that the thing that they all have in common, whether they're on the spectrum or not, is that those people had a psychosocial stressor, that something had happened. And yet that is buried way at the back of the article. What got the headline is autism and mass murders. Really irresponsible, in my opinion. But
Shannon, the thing is that all sociopaths or all individuals who are who live outside of the normal social rules, which is what we call sociopathic behavior, right? It's someone who normal social rules doesn't apply to. They don't understand the rules, will behave in ways that are erratic and not comprehensible for us. And that's what happened in this case as well. This was a young man who felt that it would justify things if he did this.
Yeah.
That it would be somehow retribution, as he called it. Retribution for what? It just makes no sense.
And I will say, I got a couple of phone calls over the weekend of parents of, kids that my son plays with, and they were very polite about it, but they said, are you reading the headlines? Are you seeing what's happening? What's your take on it? I want to get your take on it, which I thought was a really good way of them dealing with it, because I knew that they had fears. And what I said was, when we think back to when I was a kid, there were a bunch of shootings. There were 3 different shootings when I was a child that happened that were postal workers. And I said, but we don't sit and say all postal workers are dangerous.
That's right. Right.
We looked at what was happening that was causing a stressor that made postal workers, obviously, they were in a situation where something could happen.
Right.
But there were 3 postal workers that did this. We never said, I'm afraid of my mailman.
Right.
Right? And we need to have the same kind of mentality.
That's right. But having said that, though, we did coin the term going postal.
Yes.
After that.
Yes.
So, people have the tendency to do those things. But you bring up a very good point, which is we have to identify, if anything good can come of this, it has to be that we identify those individuals in society that need help.
Yes.
And figure out there are no programs for kids on the spectrum, let's say Asperger's kids. They're very little. I mean, we do these programs at CARD and we're overwhelmed with the need, but there's still very little out there for very, very high level people who need help.
Yeah, and that has to change, and that comes from all of us. We have to be the loud voices to make that happen. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to take a turn here and start answering your questions that you guys have been writing in, so stick with us. Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh for Ask Dr. Doreen, and she's answering your questions. So we're going to get right to another question. Somebody wrote this in yesterday. They loved the show yesterday. Thank you for that. This is a question for tomorrow, which is today. Are you able to get an update on the release of Skills book for the regulars who use Skills? I'm so excited and can't wait to use it. And they left their email address and they said, thank you so much. By the way, whenever you want us to get back to you, that's a great thing to do. Leave your email address and we don't share it. But do we have an update? That's terrific.
We'll forward your email to our clinical director, Evelyn Kong, who is right now the one rolling out Skills book. Thank you, first of all, for appreciating Skills book. And Skills. I am so overwhelmed with joy that we're rolling out Skills book this year. So we're in phase 1, and phase 1 involves the behavioral portion. So we have rolled out internally to CARD the behavioral portion of Skills book, which is the portion that tracks challenging behaviors and automatically feeds them into the multidisciplinary timeline into Skills. I would say by, where are we? We're good. This is before the summer now. So I would say probably by the end of the summer, beginning of fall, we will roll out in its entirety within CARD. So all the data, natural environment, and discrete trial data input. So by the end of the year, then I'm thinking it'll probably go public, or we'll send it out there for everyone else. So we like to try things out on CARD first because it gives us the opportunity to fix problems, and that's what we're doing right now.
Love it.
So that by the time we send it out there, it should be pretty clean. It is terrific, and I'm still changing and adding stuff to it. I mean, we're still working on, if I have a moment, I'm still working on generating better graphs and reports and stuff, but even right now it generates a ton of amazing stuff.
It's so exciting when you think about all the different ways that people are going to be able to use this, and if you are somebody who works in a school, I can see how that can revolutionize the way a team works at school.
Right.
Because
and it's time saving. It's so amazing. Our therapists are, initially people become very reactive to new technology, but our therapists, I think, are really enjoying it. I mean, people are shocked. Like within our own system, they're like, so I don't have to input behavior anymore? I'm like, no. It automatically captures now off your iPad. So it's really nice.
Truly, really remarkable. Looking forward to it, and thank you for the question. Okay, next question. How do you work on getting them to talk about things other than what they're obsessed about? I'm grateful he's talking, but I don't want to talk about Minecraft all day. Oh, sister, are we related? Because I feel you on this one. So, Dr. Granpeesheh, how do we get them to talk about things that they're not preferred topics?
Right. I mean, and let me just join the Minecraft thing here, because my son, as you know, became the guru of Minecraft. So, like anything else, why don't you just use a timer? Okay. And first, teach your child to identify when they're talking about something that only they are interested in. So, for instance, you make a list and you'll say, so tell me some of the things you like to talk about. Minecraft, what else? List them, right? And then some of the things I might like to talk about, and that might be in itself a difficult task for your child because of the lack of theory of mind. Don't know. So you help your child identify those things, right? And you list those. And then you actually set a timer, and then you say, hey, let's just talk. And your child starts to talk, and you'll time whenever he's talking about one of the subjects on his list versus yours, which most likely will start out with nothing on yours. And so you'll stop him and you'll say, look, we have to have an equal amount of time. So we've talked this much, I don't know, 1.5 minutes about your stuff. Now it's time to talk about my stuff, something off of my list. So let's do that. And then you do it and the timer goes off and you'll be like, oh great, now we can talk another minute and a half or 3 minutes about something on your list. You pick it. And that's how you practice it. And it seems kind of rote initially, but believe me, your child will start to become aware of the fact that, oh, I've been talking about my own issue. I should probably talk about something that they're interested in. Then it's a fabulous opening to teaching stuff like, well, ask me what are some things, like, so that when he goes to other children, he's able to identify what are the things they're interested in. Yeah. And that gives you the opportunity to teach inferences. It gives you the opportunity to teach the child to read facial expression, you know, and you can actually then go more advanced and start to pretend like you're bored or something like that. So he learns to minimize the amount of time on Minecraft and to realize, oh, she looks like she's bored. Maybe I should shorten and go to her subject. There's so much stuff you can teach from that point forward.
I love this idea, though, of the visual of the 2 sheets of paper, because I've been doing a thing with Jem where I'll say to him, you know, you can tell me 3 things about a video game, and that's it, and then we're done for the next hour. And that was very effective at stopping the endless Minecraft conversation, but we end up doing that over and over, and we don't ever progress past that. But I love the idea of the visual so that he can see the equality in it.
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of seeing the equality in it. Yeah, you have to balance it because it's not, and there's more than that. It's about the child beginning to see past himself.
Yeah.
See, with our kids, they grow up and we're very, you know, the better trained a therapist you become as a mom, you become more and more, you allow the child more and more it's egocentric, like you are paying so much attention to his issues, and at some point you really need to teach the child to pay attention to your issues. And so that is a huge lesson, and that comes with the whole theory of mind, empathy, everything. And this, you know, being able to put them side by side is the very beginning of, I took care of you, you have to take care of me, you have to give me equal coverage. But you should go, it goes a little bit further, and it's more about teaching the child to kind of recognize that they're not being a good friend if they're not taking care of you. And that produces the whole cycle of how should I treat this other person? How do I like to be treated?
Yeah. So important. I love all the ramifications from this that we get. So important that, because I think a lot of times we can poo-poo and go, oh, well, I'll just let them go on, but it really is not a service to them if we do that.
And if you go on skills, if you are a skills user in the, I believe this would be in the, I'm not sure. I'm thinking it's in the social curriculum, but I'm not sure. I think this falls under social conversation, but all the lessons I just mentioned are in skills. I don't know if we have it in the visual format I said, but exchanging communication or all that sort of stuff is in skills, and you can, staying on topic or changing topic, paying attention to the other individual's facial expression, all that sort of stuff is there.
Yeah, really remarkable. The social language curriculum is insanely wonderful.
It's good stuff.
It's great for anybody to read through. I'm still learning things from it. Who am I kidding? I learned, past tense. I'm learning from it. Okay, longer question. My son is 5 years and 10 months old. He recently became obsessed with looking out the windows, mainly watching cars coming and going from our neighborhood. This happened before, and unfortunately I did not get a chance to take data on it, but it did eventually fade and then go away completely. Now it's back. We did an FBA. It's definitely automatic reinforced. Last time we did a lot of blocking, but this time around when it started back up, we just let him do it because it's not hurting anyone. My question is, should I continue to let him do it? It's only happening at home, and besides him not requesting to open the blinds or curtains, it's normally not a problem. On occasion, he will have meltdowns when certain cars leave the area screaming, "Black car, time to go bye-bye," while moving towards our front door and attempting to leave. Him requesting is an easy fix, and we are fading our prompts. Now he is almost independently requesting to look out the window. So interesting,
it's kind of
right?
Cute, yeah. I mean, to me, if he's, to me, he seems bored. To me, it seems like this is something that's of interest to him, and he's almost interacting with it. He's kind of curious about what's going on out there. I don't know if he has enough activity inside. So I guess the few things that I would point out about this is that make sure, I would probably leave it alone as long as it doesn't increase in time. So in other words, limit it to a certain healthy time frame. Like you don't want your child looking out the window at cars for half an hour every day or an hour every day. It's okay if they do it in 2 15-minute segments, I suppose, but not if it's like a straight half hour where they won't do anything else. Make sure the child doesn't become rigid in terms of avoiding everything else when they're doing this. So like make sure you can interrupt it by saying, okay, it's time to go now. Or if he starts to freak out because you're interrupting it, then you realize that it's becoming a little bit too addictive or a little bit too intense for him, and that's when you need to start intervening. So just keep it at a healthy level. Now that aside, why is he doing this? When we say you've done an FBA and it shows that it's automatic reinforcement, it basically means he's enjoying it internally. Okay, he's enjoying it internally, but why? Like what aspect of it is interactive for him or is entertaining? I just feel like he has a certain level of boredom. Maybe he's into cars. If he's into cars, why not use this as an opportunity to, get him to watch other car type shows, or maybe you can look at cars online and learn about them, or maybe you can have pretend play activities that involve cars, or if he's he's using his colors when it comes to cars, maybe he can describe cars and through that learn a lot more attributes. So take the positives, absolutely, but just make sure that you're limiting it so that it doesn't start to become an obsessive behavior.
Okay, can I tell you what I'm worried about?
Yes,
the
please.
Sentence that she says, on occasion he will have meltdowns when certain cars leave the area screaming, "Black car, time to go bye-bye," while moving towards our front door and attempting to leave.
Yes,
that's the
point.
part that worries me, because and of course I'm curious why why is it the black car leaving and he says time to go bye-bye, like he wants to go bye-bye with that car.
But does it say the car is leaving?
It looks like the car, she says, is leaving the area. So if a car is leaving the neighborhood, then he thinks it's time to go and is going to the door.
Right.
And he's 5, almost 6, so at some point he's going to be able to get that door open, I'm worried.
Yes. So of course that's a safety issue and you need to be very, very careful with that. Secondly, you need to, clearly he's exhibiting some sort of anxiety about the car leaving, which I think is a great opportunity for you to actually teach him that cars come and go and that there's a world of cars. And you can do that with toy cars, obviously, that you can show him that black car is going bye-bye, but then another black car will come, that sort of thing. But as I said, you need to be very, very cautious that he's not opening the door and running after the car. Yeah. You also do need to teach him the danger in cars, so that, if he has access to a car and if he's in love with cars, he realizes that he can't run in front of them or something. Yeah. All of those are given facts, but again, so everything has two sides to it. Yeah. As long as it doesn't become obsessive or dangerous, then you can take his interest in cars and develop it into other things.
And I hope you make sure that you get a really good high lock on that door that he can't open, because if he's that interested in it, I want to make sure that he can't get out. Well,
yeah, and I don't know, the problem with locks obviously is that a lot of times people
forget,
right?
It's human error.
Right. I think you can definitely have the whole handle moved up, all the way up, so that he's not reaching it right now. So the whole gizmo is up high on top. But they have these very good devices now that are automatically on the door that'll beep if the door's open.
Right, the little alarms. And they're fairly inexpensive.
It's a little box. Very inexpensive. I think they're less than $20, and there's a little box like that, and you put it on the door, and it will beep when it's opened. It's sort of a magnetic contact, and that's a perfect way as well of tracking things. But you also want to teach him. You have to teach him, not just prevent it, but teach him that he can see those things and that he shouldn't run after them. And I think the running after it is is his anxiety that this car is leaving and he will never see it again. And I think you need to teach him that there are many cars coming and so on and so forth. Like, use the anxiety to actually figure out how to calm him down. What is it that's causing him anxiety?
I was really struck by something last night. I mentioned I went to the Unified Theater performance last night. We had them on the show yesterday, and Wyatt was in the performance, and it was so lovely to go and see. And the kids were great, and what a wonderful program, so impressive. But there was something that happened shortly after the show started that was just so interesting to me on my street where I live. There was a small baby who was in the audience who was fine as we're waiting for the lights to go down. The lights went down, baby is fine. The kids start to come out on the stage and they're starting to talk, and the baby starts to fuss. And the mom is, trying everything. And it's a child that's just basically been walking for a couple of months, and she's, trying to keep the baby quiet because, and the baby is fussing and, and wants to go. And finally she went and sat in the aisle and was trying to, and the baby was not having any of it and made so much noise that finally the mom left the theater. And eventually at some point she sneaked in a little bit later, and there was a part at the end of the show where they had all the kids that were in the show come and sit on the stage, and they showed a beautiful slideshow that was like the curtain call of the process that they had gone through, and it was amazing and it was wonderful, and they had live music to play during it. But at some point the mom came back in with the baby, and the baby walked out into the middle of the stage and was just the happiest. She wanted to be on the stage with those kids because her sister was on there. And it didn't matter. We didn't know that in the audience. It could have been that she wanted a drink. It could have been that she didn't like being in the dark. But then once you saw that baby on the stage, she was thrilled. And as they were going around and giving flowers to each one of the kids, the baby went over and held its hand out like, it's my turn. And her body language was, and then she went over and wanted to take the microphone. This was a child who wanted to be there in the mix. But it would have been all too easy for us to misread it and say, oh, the baby just can't hang for the performance. Not at all. She was fine.
To be in the performance.
But and it really reminded me about, until our kids have functional communication to tell us what they want.
But it is
so
like when they're babies. It's just like when they're babies. I mean, your child does something. With my kids, I know I would sit there and I'd give a million options. I'd be like, yes, black car, bye-bye, or but what? So what? Another car's coming back, and I'd keep talking until I'd see my child's reaction change, and then kind of like, oh, okay. And I think we can't make assumptions. We have to recognize that our children are behaving the way they are for some reason. They're trying to tell us something, and it's important to try to figure out what that is.
Because in the meantime, especially whenever we look at elopement and wandering, that a lot of, not all the time, sometimes it's to get away from something, but sometimes it's to go to something.
Definitely. It's to go after something because they like the way it looks or is, or they don't want it to disappear, or they don't have the concept of object permanence, that something's gone, but it's not gone for good. It's still as permanent. It's there. And those types of things are very, very important because they can be pretty disturbing. I mean, this is like what leads to kids who have separation anxiety. They think when their mom walks away, she's gone for good. The concept of I will see her again in 10 minutes doesn't exist. And, you should teach your child those things that will help them calm down quite a bit.
They've written in some more. She says, my son picks that same black car because it's the same not make model as my car. He is also obsessed with another car that is navy blue that is the same not model of my car. Even though our cars look different, he has managed to figure out that they are all the same make.
Interesting.
Same make, not model. I see. So it's the same type of car, but not the same model of the car. Interesting.
So this is what I love about our kids. So like it's a Honda or something, or like it's a Mercedes or whatever it is. And so basically your child that's very interesting. That could mean a lot of different things. I'm wondering if first of all, I have so many thoughts. I love our kids. They're so fascinating. They're just so fascinating.
And someday you're going to be able to look back and talk about this and hopefully know
exactly what it is.
And he'll be able to tell you. But until then.
Absolutely. So first of all, so clearly your child is one of those kids who memorizes very interesting facts. So, get him engaged in other aspects of sorting. This is basically sorting. These are all Mercedes, these are all Hondas, these are all whatever, Toyotas, and so on and so forth. And that's cool. That's an activity. And it's actually a cool activity for later in life. Like I can see my son now, who's 15, and all of his buddies, it's all about cars, right? Because they're at the age where they're getting cars, and everybody, my son knows, I throw out a name, he'll know exactly what year, model, whatever it is, it's crazy. So that's an activity that your child could engage in separately. The fact that it's the same make as your car, I don't know if he's artistic. Does he like the logo? Is that what's attracting him? Or is it simply that it is your car? Does he panic because he thinks your car is leaving? I don't know. There's so many different... Are you there when he panics like that?
Yeah. Has your car ever been driven away with you at home? Like, and what attached that happened?
Right.
Did he miss out on something because the car drove away once? You wonder.
There is a reason, though, that would make sense to us, that he's sort of trying to go. It could be something as simple as a puzzle piece is missing now, because all the cars with this particular make are in the neighborhood and all is fine, and now it's gone and there's an empty hole there. It could be something as simple as that. You really do need to find out though what it is, because you need to be able to teach him that it's okay.
Right.
So that he doesn't try to run after it.
Right.
And that's very important. So
fascinating.
Our kids are complicated.
But they're a beautiful mystery too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And when you find the answer to it,
it's usually shockingly
huge
awesome.
Light bulb. Yeah, and you go, oh, okay, so that's what was going on.
Yeah,
fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, let's short break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions. Stick with us. Welcome back. And there was the great Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, who won't be joining us today, but she is recuperating from a fall. She is okay. Want everybody to know that, but she needs to be horizontal. We're gonna staple her to the bed.
Don't we all?
Yes, but she, like you're both Energizer bunnies, and occasionally, we just need to pull the batteries out and say, go to bed, and stay in bed. So Nancy, you are not allowed to come here.
And you feel better. Get well
and
soon.
Please feel better. And she is, I know, already feeling better. Okay, so next question. We actually had another follow-up. Yes, he runs to the cars when we go out. He stares at the logo on the car.
Mm-hmm. So it's the logo. So,
and all the same logos, she's saying.
Right, which is the make. So if he's into the logos, why don't you just get him into art? Like, get him into drawing these things and redirect it to something that's functional, adaptive.
Yeah.
And, have somebody teach him how to draw cars with different logos. Or you can have a very basic thing, which is, take a picture of the logo, turn it into a sticker, and when that car is gone, he can replace it with this sticker until the car comes back, or something like that. Give him like a Monopoly board, which has all these cars, and he can draw them and put them there, and give him a different out. So this has to do with sort of a lack of closure when one of the logos is gone or something.
You can even take a piece of paper and put it over the logo and take a crayon so that he can get an impression of it.
Right. Or you can print it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many different ways to... Fascinating, though. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, another question. How much parent training do you presume to be included with any family's card program? How much parent training do you think?
What was the exact question?
How much parent training do you presume
to be
included in any family's card program?
Here, let's put it this way. I would hope that it's a lot. Whether or not it is, unfortunately, sometimes it gets watered down because we are A, restricted by funding, B, restricted by time more than anything else, because we have a set amount of time to use a set number of hours with your child. I would hope that it's huge. So one of the things that I've done now is we have 2 programs running. I mean, I've always essentially... My own, I guess, projection, because when I used to see kids and run clinics, I used to always make sure that my parents were trained on everything. They knew everything, every lingo, everything that was going on. They could sub in for a therapist, right? And I think that's usually very beneficial. Very, very beneficial. I want parents to be at the point of a therapist. And in fact, I'm doing a program soon where I will be offering to every parent at CARD to receive training to become the equivalent of a registered behavior technician, which was your idea.
Yay.
Which was something you got me to do, or you
I'm so excited.
mentioned.
I'm about to do it.
Okay, are you? Great.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I'm
great.
excited about it.
Yeah, because you mentioned that to me, and I thought, wait a minute, I got to get all our parents to do this, and I'd love to mandate it, but I'm not sure that I can. I'm going to try to make sure that over the year, like a few years, I get all of our parents at an RBT level certification, because I think it would be fabulous for parents. But in order to help parents along right now, we have two separate programs going. One is being Ali Aguilar is one of our old supervisors who I absolutely love. If you haven't met her, she's terrific. She's always been a very, very good supervisor. And for the last few years, because she had kids of her own, we allowed her to do project development. She did a lot of skills stuff from home. And so now she's sort of starting to come back to some things, and she's developing she's developing a platform by which we can enforce parent training for all of our ongoing parents, which would probably be the RBT model. And then Vince Redmond, as you know, now his position is to spend, I think, somewhere between 12 and 40 hours with every new family. So his initial training will involve like getting the families acclimated to ABA autism, what they're supposed to be, just a better understanding of things overall. So, we think that that will be a beginning thing, and then we will have an ongoing thing. And I think if we can motivate our parents to get RBT trained, that would be the best. Yeah. But, again, having said that, just because of the way the question is written, if I had to answer it accurately, I would say my presumption is that it is more than what it probably is. Because in reality, I think what happens to our staff, our supervisors, is that they're so time limited and they have so many things that they have to get done for your funding sources mostly, that they don't get to do all the things the way we'd love to do them.
Yeah. And I would say, too, that while there's a great deal of training, depending on where you are, in California, Regional Center requires you get 16 hours before you can even go to an ABA provider, any ABA provider. And a lot of times...
that's, of course, not every regional center either.
Oh, really? See, I thought it was across the board in California.
No, this is North LA and maybe a couple others. Regional centers are quite different. And then, of course, whoever provides the regional center training is different, too.
Yes.
So, who did you get your training from? Was it someone at North LA, or...?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So now that it's being... handed out to other organizations, and some of those organizations are not that thrilling.
Well, and even then, that 16-hour training, that came when you weren't experiencing it. So if I had it to do over again, I would have been thrilled to have taken that like every year.
Yes. So
that I could learn more, because then I got less tired because I got more sleep and I could learn better. And I just want to say, for the parents that are out there, whatever provider that you have that's giving you, let's say they're giving you 2 hours of training, that whatever it is, you have a responsibility to do more. And you now have the ability to do more. The RBT training is available to everybody, but there are so many other trainings that are on IBT that it's available to you, and you can make it child specific to your child. But no, even if they mandate it and say you have to do this to have the funding, it's still on you. It's your responsibility to do it and learn it, and it's to your benefit, and it's to your child's benefit, and it's to their detriment if you don't.
Well, yeah, and I think that you should just go on IBT. I mean, IBT is fabulous, and just go through through all of them. Go through the entire parent section, go through the entire teacher section, the professional section. Just learn as much as you can from that. They're very, very inexpensive and very possible to do. Once you've done, I mean, they're cheaper than buying a book, So, and once you've done that, you should then go for the RBT. The RBT is very different in that it's an assessment, so it's very, very individualized. So our people assess you and identify specifically your areas that you need to work on and learn, and then teach you those particular things and make sure that you understand it in a very well-rounded manner what it is that you're doing. And let me tell you, I don't have a language other than ABA when I deal with my own kids. I just don't, because it's part of who I am. And not just my kids, my spouse, my entire life, right? I mean, it is all ABA. It changes you. as I see in you, Shannon.
I can't believe the things that come out of my mouth now.
Right, and it changes you in a wonderful way.
Yes.
Things make a lot more sense, and you are much more empowered.
Yes.
Not just with your child, with your employer, with your friends, with your spouse, with daily problems. It helps you to understand things better.
And it also forces you to see the good things.
Absolutely.
It does. And that's a lovely, lovely gift.
Yes,
honestly.
Definitely.
One of the promises that I got from the first family that told us about CARD, they said they will give you the best parenting training that you can get that's available anywhere in the world.
That's great.
And that's really true, but it goes far beyond parent training. It goes life skills.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I think you made a very good point. It's that it makes you so comfortable with your own child. You know, whereas before you're scared, should I do this? Should I do that? Who do I ask? What do I do?
Right.
And it empowers you to, it's like teaching you sign language for your child who's hearing impaired.
Yeah, it is
You
amazing.
now know the language and can communicate, and you know you have a tool that's effective when your child's screaming. You know what to do.
Yeah.
You know?
I had so much fear and trepidation when we would go places about what was going to happen in public and could I handle it.
Right.
And I can remember where we live, they have concerts in the park every summer, and I remember going to those and saying to my husband, and you'd see kids that were just running in the field and having a good time, and I remember saying to my husband, will we ever get to the point where we can just let him do that? And I have that now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a happy, compliant child, not a child that I've threatened into being compliant, although occasionally I do that too, because I slip sometimes.
Well, everybody does.
Right? But I have, and I get to enjoy him now. I can't tell you how often I'm someplace and we're leaving.
Right.
Even last night going to the theater show, and there were times when, a couple of things happened, and I'll talk about them in the next hour. But I got to enjoy my child. And I find that as we're walking back to the car or the house or whatever, that I find myself saying to him, I just so enjoy spending time with you.
Right.
And it's not because I've been told that's a good thing to say. That's from the bottom of my soul saying it to him.
Right.
That's the best gift, because I didn't know if we were ever going to have that.
Absolutely.
But that came from not just having therapists in the home, from me learning things.
Absolutely. I mean, the therapists are very limited in their time with your child, in contrast to the amount of time you as a parent spend with your child.
Yeah. So important, the parent training, and it's got to be ongoing, and the parents have to ask for more, and the parents have to schedule it. It's there.
Right.
You've given us the tools now. Back in my day, I would have had to go back to school. There wasn't a library that I could go park in and read everything that you make available to us now, and you can start doing it for as little as $7.50. Change your surroundings today for $7.50.
Exactly.
That's, you can buy a Starbucks, grande or whatever. I don't drink coffee for that amount of money.
Right.
So it's incredible. And if you don't have it, by the way, if you don't have the money to be able to do it, if $7.50 is outside because of all the other things that you have going on, you can apply for a grant from ACT today to get those IBT trainings. So there is no one that shouldn't be able to do it.
That's right.
Emily, do we have time for one more question? Okay. How do you get a high-functioning kiddo to make eye contact in stressful situations it hasn't generalized?
That's a very broad question, because we define high stressful as different things. I guess I would try to gradually infuse the stressful components into the child's environment. So I'm thinking of it as, I'm trying to infer what the parent is expressing here. For instance, we will teach certain things, and then we want to make sure that our child is capable of doing those things in a classroom environment, just as an example. And the classroom environment, generally, I don't consider it a stressful environment, but I do if the child is sensory, has difficulty with sensory input. So one of the things that I will do, for instance, is I'll tape record the sounds of a classroom, and I will introduce those in the background of the child's room where we're doing one-to-one, so that I'm able to kind of condition the child to be able to ignore those sounds and continue to focus. So whatever the stress impacting factors are, the things that you think are stressful for your child, it could, things that cause stress generally are things like extreme sensory input, timed. Any activity that is timed will tend to produce stress for everyone. So in other words, if there's a timer and you have to finish within a certain period of time, that increases anxiety and stress. So whatever those factors are, I would gradually bring them into, fade them in, shape them in, so the child's behavior shapes and gradually the child is exposed to these factors in a kind of experimental setting with gradual infusion rather than just throwing your child into the stressful situation.
Okay. We had a follow-up on the question from the parent asking about the card training. They want to know, how does a parent get involved with this RBT?
Oh, great.
And they said that we are not in California, and they have said that they don't feel like they're getting any parent training.
Okay. So I would contact IBT, Institute for Behavioral Training.
So they are ibehavioraltraining.com.
Right. ibehavioraltraining.com. Or if you just put in Institute for Behavioral Training in Google, it'll come up.
Yes.
They are our training group. They are the group of supervisors who were here at CARD for 20 years, and we cut them off and made their own company, which is IBT. And they are our most fantastic people. And they will give you information about how to do RBT, get the RBT certification, because we do it with them, but also, and it doesn't matter where you are, I believe we can do it anywhere. And also they will, just going on the IBT website, you can start downloading and getting some of those trainings.